Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today to the Extraordinary Records Management Made Easy webinar. This is the second session of today, so that we could obviously as well have our friends from WA on board. My name is Rainer Krause. I'm the Managing Director of ELO Australia. We're looking after Australia and New Zealand and the Asia Pacific region. Our main presenter later will be Alan Norman. Alan is our specialist for records management, and I believe he has prepared a fantastic webinar. If you allow me, I will just take you through a little bit through what we're going to do over the next 60 minutes, maybe a little bit shorter, maybe a little bit longer, depending on the questions that are coming through. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Everybody is muted at this point in time, just to ensure that we don't have background noise. If you have any questions, please use the question tabs. Some questions may be answered during the session. If I can, other questions will be absolutely responded to after the session. The structure of the webinar, relatively straightforward. I'm doing a little bit of the introduction of ELO, who we are, what we do, a global company with Australian expertise. Alan will then do the records management demo. He will start with the user experience and then with the records management administration. We have been asked in the past often, okay, I know how records management works, but I need to know what is the difference? Why do we think records management could be easy? So we're starting with the user experience, and then we go a little bit and look under the hood of the whole thing. Company overview. ELO is a company spread worldwide. We have over 400 staff, more than 1 million users, and 30,000 live installations. We have more than 400 business partners worldwide. Customers such as Lufthansa, possibly one of our largest customers, has over 20,000 users concurrently, but we have as well small councils in WA with just 3 users. So everything in between is scalable and can be serviced by ELO. ELO Australia was incorporated in 2005. Those of you who do not know about ELO, we are spending more money on the product than on our marketing. We are a privately owned Australian company, and we're really looking after Australia and New Zealand specific, but as well covering the region pretty much from the time zones New Zealand to India. We got customers on all levels of government, federal, state, local governments, councils, non-for-profit organizations. We are compliant with at least all the regulations we know about records management. We're fully VERS compliant, I think now 10 years in a row, with customers in healthcare, aeronautics, Qantas, Virgin. We are as well having a lot of customers in the non-for-profit organization areas such as WA Family Planning, South Australian Ambulance Service, Royal Flying Doctors. So essentially the software is not necessarily only for government or for private companies. No, we are covering the entire spectrum of digital transformation. We are working very closely together with our partners, so Toshiba, Grace Digital Office, PSQ, it's a Perth-based company, ISW, Tasmanian-based company, and we have an alliance to share knowledge as well with KPMG. Just a couple of questions from the first sessions. So just as well for you to be encouraged to ask questions, do we have a browser-based user interface? Yes, we have. Alan will be able, hopefully later, to show that is really similar to what we have on the installed client. Can I create my own BCS and disposal authorities? Yes, you can. Alan will go in there. Can I match ELO records with paper locations? Yes, of course. Specifically, when we're looking at our partner Grace, they obviously have a location management system for the paper records, but that can as well be interfaced with ELO. We have an old legacy trim system. Can we migrate? Yes, of course you can. We have a migration framework, and you wouldn't be the first entity that migrates away from trim and goes into ELO. We call that the upgrade to ELO session. And can I bulk upload records? Yes, you can. So I don't want to go much further into those, but really this is an encouragement for you as well to ask questions during the sessions. I will always try to respond to them during the session on a one-on-one, but of course we will answer all questions later. So I think I'm going to hand over to Alan. Alan will be demonstrating, as I said, first the user experience to show you how easy it is with a modern records management system to work from a user experience, and then he will go into the records management administration. So I'm now handing over to Alan.
Good morning, everybody. What you're looking at now is the initial screen that you get when you log into the ELO Java client, and we'll also at a later stage have a look at the web client. There's some slight differences, but it looks very, very similar to what you see now. Now, ELO has a policy of building applications based on the framework or guidelines provided by Microsoft. Now, the most recent of those is Windows 10. So if you can drive Word or Excel or PowerPoint, then you'll be able to use ELO. The difference obviously being there are some functions within ELO that things like searching and that you may not necessarily get in those other applications. But the layout, the manipulation through, the right-hand mouse click, all those types of things are exactly the same as that you would expect to get in Windows 10. If you look at this initial window, you basically have these tiles on the left-hand side, and they're effectively what we refer to as work areas or areas that you can go in and do it. You've got the repository, which is the folder structure. You've got the search area. You've got the task, which is the workflow area. And then you basically have a couple of utility type areas that you can actually work with. The middle frame is the view that you get of our feed. Now, what the feed is the ability to include a number of people in a discussion on a particular document. So you type up a document, you send out notification for people to have a look at it and provide feedback. And this is basically the interface that you get from the very first screen. And there's also an interface that you get when you're actually looking at the document. And the right-hand side is just a summary of the different filters that you have applied to see this middle window. So let's have a look at the repository. Now this should be very similar to you because it's basically it looks like what you see when you go into Windows Explorer, and you have a series of folders and you have this structure, and that is the Business Classification Schema, or BCS as it's normally referred to. Within that particular structure, you have normally 3, 4, 5 levels, and then you come down to another particular type of folder, if you like, and they represent the files or the storage areas that you can physically place documents. You notice if you look very closely, this one looks like a filing drawer, and this one here is a little bit lighter color. Now, the difference is the type of file that they are. So this one will take electronic documents. This one here is basically representing a paper or external file that you might have in a compactor somewhere, or away in an archive box, so that you can represent them as just a standard part of the structure, if you like. And underneath that, you basically have what we refer to as documents, what records management people refer to as records. Now, it's important from a user point of view, with records management, you want to sort of control where the user is able to place their documents or their records. but you don't want it to be sort of overt. So what we do is use this color scheme. So all these uppercase and the orange folders, you are not expected to put anything in there. In fact, it will come back and say that you can't. When you come down to this particular layer here, you have a container or a file container, and that is where you can place the records of the documents that you're trying to insert into the system. You have the ability to create subfolders below those particular containers, and that's normally given free form to the end user. We might limit the depth that you can go to, but in terms of how many of those that you create, doesn't really matter to the system, and in most cases doesn't matter to the records management people at all, because they're really just dividers for you to organise your records or your documents in the way that you want to organise them. So there's a control at the top, and there's basically these storage areas, if you like. So how do we interact with the system, I mean? So you have tabs along the top, just like you do in Word or any other application. And you have functions or buttons that are represented within that particular tab. We have a concept of check-in, check-out. So if I wish to work on a particular document, I check it out. It knows that it's Word that I'm dealing with because the extension has a Word extension, DOCX. And it's Windows 10 that's deciding what actually gets run. You'll also notice, if you look closely, it's actually put general user, which is my logon with square brackets around it. And that gives other people who are looking through the structure and come across this thing called this is a letter that I'm actually working on it, that is checked out to me, and it is effectively locked until I basically release it. So I might add extra text here. I might save that. Close it down, go out to lunch, come back again, open it up again, and it will be there available to you in Word. Now, ELO is sort of looking at the document that you're working on, but doesn't care what you do with it. So you are now working in the Word environment, and you use Word like you normally would. You can format, you can insert tables. ELO doesn't care about that. What it cares about is getting the file back again when you're actually finished. And the way of doing that is the opposite of check out is check in. Now ELO will detect that you've actually made a change to the document and will automatically increment the version number. Now I've chosen to use the format of 2.1, 2.2, 1.1, 5.3, those types of things. This formatting of the version is really up to you, and that's the old version over here, 2.1. So I can type in, just updated some text. So you get to put in a comment. If you want to make that a permanent version, say it's a policy, you've done some toing and froing, you've got people to have a look at it, and now you want that to effectively be a sealed document for people to reference. So I can basically tick this box here, and that means only the ultimate administrator can actually delete that particular document, so it is a permanent copy of the document within ELO. It's just a matter of saying, okay, system updates itself. What you would notice over here on the left-hand side is that my name has disappeared against that particular Word document. So now it's free for other people to, take a copy of, save a copy, send it as an email to somebody, all those types of things, provided, of course, they've got the security access to do such things. So that's that. So what happens when I want to build a document for the first time? I'll use Excel. So here I have a series of numbers. Doesn't really matter what they are. New document. And you'll notice that the application has a little ELO tab in it that you would normally not expect to find in Excel. You click on that and there are two buttons available to you. One is to use the search function within ELO. The other one is to physically save the document to ELO. And what you get is this positioning screen. So what it's effectively asking you is, where do you want to put the document? On the left-hand side, you've got your structure. If I try to put it in complaints, it will come back with a message saying you can't put that document there. If I select one of these, it will place it into that particular file container. So you'll end up with an additional document / record saved. But you also get the ability to save shortcuts. If you've got a particular file container that you're working with all the time, so rather than have to hunt your way around and find out where it is, you can basically create a shortcut to it. And that's just a matter of clicking on this add button and then clicking OK. So if I ignore the left-hand side and say, well, I want to put it in there, then I get what we refer to as a keywording form. So this is where you fill out your metadata. But you'll notice it's already filled out some of it for you. The location is filled out. The file number that effectively now owns the record. The part number automatically generated a document number, and there might be a couple of extra fields. So there's a field here that it wants me to fill out. If you've downloaded something from the web, then typically you would be asked to put in a document source. In other words, where did you get that document from? Let's just change the title. We'll call it Test Excel Record. Here's your confirmation it's being saved, and there it is down there. Now the characteristics of that record has been inherited from the file container. So security is inherited, any special security classification that you have, it might be confidential folder, it might be a general folder. So they're all inherited by the records as they get placed inside the particular container where they're located. So if I look at the keywording form here, so that's all nicely filled out. You have other values. So you've got security classification and where it came from. So that's basically, you don't have to worry about any of that. It's all inherited from the file here. And when we go through the records management side of things, you'll find that it's actually inherited from this BCS folder as a default. You can change the default once you've created the object, but basically as a default, it will always inherit the characteristics either of the leaf folder of the BCS, or for records, it inherits the characteristics of the actual container that you placed it in. So let's say I wanted to send that as an email to somebody. So you can send it as a document, you can send it as a link, or you can send it where it will convert it into a PDF and then put it in the email. So I'll just click on that, come down to the email. Again, we have set up problems with the email. And so what it's done is actually taking the title that you see down here, placed it as a subject, it's put an attachment to it, but this time it's basically an ELO attachment. So if I click on that, it would try and go back to ELO to locate that particular document. So typically, if you're trying to reference documents within the organisation, you would typically use these links. But the other thing you have to be aware of, the person that you're sending it to with that particular link has to have security access to the document. Otherwise, it'll come back and say it can't find it. So you're not opening up the document from a security point of view. You need to understand what the settings are on this particular document down here so that the person that you're sending it to will be able to do something with it. So we just send that off. Now, other things that people use it for, now it's quite common, so that email's just arrived. It's quite common for people to reference other documents. So I might be in here, and that could be another location within the BCS structure, and I want to reference this document here. Now, in the past, what you would have done on a drive is copy that document to the other location, and that totally loses the link, because that document can change, or you can do what you like with it, and the original document won't really know that change has been made. So we have a concept of a reference. So you select the document, you click on reference. Up here it says this is the original one. What is the target? So I'll just click on this container, click insert, and now this is referenced, is a reference back to the original document. You notice if you look very closely in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a little arrow, and that arrow is indicating that it's a reference. If I make any key wording changes to this document, they will also always be reflected in the original as well, assuming obviously they have access to change the particular characteristics. The other thing that people use a lot is links. So I've written up this nice report, and there might have been 4 or 5 documents that I used to create that report or that summary. So let's assume that this is the main report. I've already linked that one. So we'll use this one here. Indicated that there was a concept of a right-hand mouse click. You can put what shortcuts that you like in there, so you can configure that to whatever you would like it to be. So I've got a link. Now what a link is basically like a grouping. So I've got this main document, and I might want to include this document here, might want to include this document here, might want to include this document here. So you have this sort of master document, and whenever someone finds this document, they will find that these other documents are associated with it. And it's just a coupling, if you like. The other way of doing it is where you want to basically, no matter what document you find, you want to be able to find all the others, and that's called the mesh link. So you highlight the list that you've got, you click on mesh link, and that will automatically cross-reference every document with the other document. I'm just going to stay with the concept of a master document. So how do I know that document's linked? If you clicked on the document, there it is there. What you'll notice is up here is the link. And if I click on that, I basically see the list that I've got. If I select that, I can go to that particular document. Or if I click on this and do the go to, I can position myself on those documents. So that's a linking concept that we have. Now, the other concept is tasks, workflows, those types of things. So you can set up the system so that every morning we have a task that runs, and normally it's 6 or 7 o'clock. And what it will do is send you in an email a list of outstanding tasks that you've still got to do, whether they've been escalated, whether they're still within the time frame that's been nominated, and we provide a little sort of button link, if you like, or a little arrow link that if you click on that, it will take you to that particular task within ELO. And that's where the tasks actually appear there. Now, if this was a paper document, sorry, a record, no document, and I wanted to request that particular file, I can do that through the workflow. So we've set up some simple little workflows. And this one here is request file checkout. And so what will happen with that is that that will go through to the record desk service area, and they will look at that. If it's in an archive box, then they will request the archive box. If it's in a compactus, then they will let you know where to actually find it, or they will go and get you that particular file so that you can effectively work on it or read the information that's in it. So everything from a point of view of file-related activity, and that's including the destruction of a file, is actually done through workflows. But the end result is someone has to consciously click on a button to finish the action. That way we're getting a register within our audit facility that action was done and who did it. So who was the logon that actually performed that particular action. There's a number of other functions. We're running a little bit short of time. One that might be useful, I put together the board papers or the papers for a committee. Have a particular file container, and that's where I've got 3 or 4 people who I'm waiting for their part of the actual committee, the documents that they're going to provide. So what I can do is select that monitor. That one's already being done. And what that will do, if other than myself, if someone puts a document or updates a document in that particular file container, it will send me a task that basically says, so-and-so added something to that particular file container. So it's sort of, don't have to keep checking, you don't have to keep ringing them up. You'll basically get notified on your screen the fact that they've already actioned something for you to have a look at. So that again is a useful function within ELO from a user point of view. Now the last thing was a quick look at the web client. So I'll quickly log on as general user. So I don't know whether you remember the main client, but it looked exactly like that. You have your work areas over here. You have your feed interactions here, and you basically have your filters over there. Now, the difference with this is that the positioning yourself is done at the top, so it's not sort of hiding down the bottom. So if I wanted to go to the repository, it looks the same. So that if you wanted to look at, say, the finance area, so there's the file containers. If I wanted to put something into that file container, I'd select it and just drop it in this middle window, and it will capture that document, sorry, that record or / document for me, and I will be prompted with the keywording form to fill it out. Same inheritance takes place as we had before. for the record and for the file searching. It's just a matter of typing in search criteria, just like you would with the main client, and it will come back with a list of results for you. So it's very similar in terms of the way it interacts with you. So that's basically the web client. So now what I want to do is go on to the specific functions for records management. So I'll log on as an administrator for this one. So that's records management administrator. Now while that's logging on, so what you'll see is when the client starts up and we go into the repository area, there's an extra tab at the top called records. And within that is just a series of functions that you can perform based around the records management side. So same interface, and you've got this records tab. So let's go into the repository, click on records, and I'll click on a file. So these are all the functions that are available to you from a records point of view. If you choose to divide it up, like you may not want everybody in the records group to do disposal action, so that you can you can remove that button from all but one or two people. You know, you might not want people to do the reclassify of a file where you're moving it from one area of the BCS to another area, so that again those buttons can be removed, and it's normally based around groups. So this is totally configurable. You know, you might not want people to set up a legal hold. You might only want certain people to do that. Now, before we get started, what I'll do is just explain what it is that you have to provide to the ELO records management system for it to work. So let's have a look at the BCS, the business classification schema. Let's get one of them out so we can see a bit more detail of it. So up to 10 levels, some can be 2 levels, some can be 6 levels, some can be 5 levels. It doesn't matter. You can mix and match the number of elements there are in the BCS branch. It's up to you. You might decide, want to fix them all at 3. That's fine. The other thing that you have to provide is the type of file that you can create within that branch of the BCS. So there might be general file, there might be project file, might be personnel file. I mean, there's a whole range. There might be a case file, an incident file, whatever it is that you actually want. But you have to indicate what those files are that can be created underneath the leaf called business planning. The other thing you have to nominate up front, now again, these are just defaults, so you're not stuck with them once you create the file, is a security classification that you want to start with. Most of the time it'll probably be unclassified. Again, you need to check with your local state records office what are the acceptable security classifications. It tends to vary a little bit from state to state. The ones that I sort of general have are unclassified, restricted, confidential. There's 2 at the top, secret, top secret. They tend not to apply to general business unless you're associated with some form of the security or police. So that's what you need there. So we need those pieces of information, the BCS plus these two additional pieces of information. So let's go and have a look at the disposal authority. Just widen that out a bit so I don't know what I'm looking at. So let's look at this one. Now with a disposal authority, this has to be unique. If you want to use it for different branches of the BCS, then we can just tack an A or a B or something on the end of it. The description or the scope of that particular disposal code, we show that within the records management so people know what the scope is for that particular disposal authority. You will find that at the State Records Office. In fact, a lot of these are actually now in standard spreadsheets for you. Function activity, sometimes they do go down to the subject level, but basically that is really just the keywords that are associated with this disposal authority. The disposal action, typically it says destroy us after 7 years on close of file or something, but this one here says retain until reference ceases. In other words, you've replaced the document with another one. What are we going to do with it? Well, it's going to be destroyed, and these are just the characteristics of the destruction. We have the concept of disposal trigger types. So file close date, file last modified date, file open date, date of separation if you're talking about personnel type documents, or date of birth. So they're the ones, and each of them represents a slightly different calculation when we are setting up the sentencing for a particular file that we're closing. Now the last one is the marrying up of everything. So we're required to map the relationship between the BCS and the disposal code. And again, it is used as a default. So it's not hard and fast. So it will create the file with that particular setting, and then you might go in and basically make a change to it. Our experience is about 85%, the default works just fine. Now with this one here, we have a 73.1. There might be a 73.2 and a 73.3, and they might represent different sentencing. This one might be 7 years, the .2 might be 15 years, and the .3 might be, has to go to the State Records Office. So we would ask you to put those in this particular field here. So rather than have all of them to choose from, if someone is allowed to change the disposal authority, then they get a limited number of disposal codes to choose from, and not the 360 odd that we actually have in the system. Now, whether you end up having that many or more really depends on the disposal codes that you and the type of business that you're in. So how does it all work? So let's say I want to create a file there. There's two ways of creating a file. One is to click on this and then work your way through the BCS structure. I know I want to create a general file. I know I want it to go into governance, and you hunt your way down. The other way, if you're sort of the quicker way, if you know what you're doing, you basically select the Leaf BCS folder, you click Insert New File, and you're up to defining it already. If there were two that could be created in that location, so there's a general file and there was a projects file, it would give you a screen that asks you to pick one of those, then it would come to this metadata form what we refer to as a keywording form. So reports 2019 to 2020. It's created a file number. The format of that file number is up to you. By default, it's become electronic. Some organisations actually defaulted to hybrid as a default setting. The owner will be governance. If it's actually been put on the list, it hasn't, so I'll pick something else. So I'll just go ahead and create this. And what it'll do is prompt me, do I want to create another one? And the answer in this particular case is no. So let's go and have a look at what that actually did to that metadata. So security. So the default security for that particular branch is restricted, not unclassified. The retention disposal is the default is 193, and here's the description: retained for 5 years. The classification is registers, and the scope, record of waiting sentence. That someone hasn't filled out that field properly, but normally there would be a description of what the document or the content of that file should have in it. So they're the default settings that you'll actually get for you once you've set it up. The More tab just gives you the ability to send yourself notifications and to preview, last modified date, have I closed and then reopened the file, those types of things. So the next thing is, it's gone through its exercise and I want to close the file. So assume the date. Now I might have closed that file because it's full. Can't fit any more pieces of paper into it. So that what I want to do is to create a part file. So it uses this one here as a basis of creating it. So same file number, it's now gone to part number 2. It's put a little square bracket up here. It's maintained all the other settings. So they're all carried over and you just click OK. And that will basically create another file container that's a mirror copy of that, except for it's part 2. And it'll go part 2, 3, 4, 5, and there really isn't any limitation on that. So that's basically how that side of it works. To reopen something, you've got 2 reopens. One of them is soft, where the sentencing will not be reset, and the other one is hard, where the sentencing will be reset. So you might have closed a file container to do with a project because the project was suspended. And now you're reopening it because the project's going to continue. In that instance, you want, when that file is complete and you close it, you want that sentencing to start from that second day, not from the first one. This one here is typically, the soft one is typically used where you are just adding documents that you've found and you're basically topping up the file. You close it and it will keep working for you. Reclassify. In other words, you're moving it. It prompts you, you're only allowed to place the general file where general files are accepted. So you can't go putting it, so let's put it somewhere in corporate. By the way, on this one, the blue represents the leaf folders. In other words, they are the bottom of the branch or top of the branch, depending on how you look at it. We'll put it in conferences. and that's just moved it now. So it's already classified to that location. Now I'm only doing these as single items. You can select 5, you can select 10, you can select 20, and it will do them all together. So you're not sort of restricted, sort of doing one at a time from that point of view. So let's have a look at this one. So as a records manager, you would typically send this off to the owner of the file, asking them, can you destroy it? So request for file destruction approval. So that's a workflow that goes through to the particular owner, and this, the details on the keywording form indicate the owner. In this case, it's normally an area or a group. They can review that, and they can come back to you and say, no, I want to keep it a little bit longer. Yeah, it's okay to destroy. So that is how that workflow actually works. It does not destroy the file. You have to consciously do that yourself, because we need the clicky or of the mouse to confirm that that's the action that you're performing. So let's do a disposal. This one here, they've come back and said, yep, all good. Click on that. You get an option, send to State Archives. The owner has indicated they want to keep it a little bit longer, or destroy. So we're going to destroy. It says that you're really, really, really sure. Yep, sure. So that's completed. Now what it's actually done is there is a folder that only the records management people can see, where those files are relocated. So there it is there. So we've kept the metadata of the file, but we've also kept the metadata of any records, electronic records that are within that file. So the objects themselves are destroyed, but the metadata is put into like a spreadsheet type format in a PDF, so that you can get access to it. So that's how the destruction of a file takes place. So let's look at this one. There's an audit report, which is a records management audit report, that effectively you can check who's done what. There's a label. You decide what the labels look like. This is just a sample. Again, if I'd selected 5 files, I would have got 5 labels. I mean, they're not a true label in a sense, something that you're going to put on a file, but this formatting is up to you. It's got a barcode, it's got the number, it's got its location, it's got the date that it was created, all of those types of things. But this format and what it looks like, and whether there's a abbreviated version or whether you want to do the spine and all that sort of thing, is really up to you. So we just need to know what the format is. Typically it's some sort of Avery sticky label, but basically that formatting is up to you. We also have the ability to bulk update the home location and current location. You're taking a whole wad of files that belong to finance, and you're going and shifting them somewhere, putting them into archive boxes, or you're doing something with them. So you basically select them all and you click on bulk update, and you just indicate what the new home location is going to be, and it will run through all of those files and update it for you in a similar way to current location. Now, just with current location to us represents the custodian. So if I'm checking out a paper file, then I'm responsible for it, not the cupboard I put it in near my desk, not the bottom drawer of my desk. So we typically allocate that to a person. Now, if you do legal actions and everything, you may find that you're actually giving it to an external location. So we would get you to create something like this, Barrister Adam Lawson, and that is the person that is effectively the custodian, and that would go in the current location for items. Now, just on this area up here, this is basically an area that you can go to get an idea of what you've got. So missing files will give you a list of the missing files that are part of the system. The standard repository that you've got. So this will give you a list of files that are in a particular shelf location. Their number, who owns them, all those types of things. Same thing there, and same thing there. Now, it doesn't mean you have to add them. So each of these items have a little searching behind them. And that is something called an SQL search. So it's like a standard database search. So if you've got someone who is your database administrator, they will know what that means. So you can actually set up a query into the database tables that we have and enable you to get results out of them. The other alternative is you can go to the search area, set up a search criteria and save it as a folder. So every time that you click on that folder, it gives you the current result of that search. And the same thing, I don't know whether I've got any archive boxes defined. No, I haven't.
Alan, we are soon running out of time. So, so far, I think what we wanted to create today is really an overview as well from a user perspective, how easy it is as a standard user to use the system, but as well to provide the audience with the capabilities of the administration part of the records management system. Obviously, there's much more to it. I did a handout to everybody showing the records management functionality. If you don't mind, Alan, we just go through a few questions. Some of the questions I can answer, some of the questions you may need to get in there. So first question was, do we have people in Western Australia and or Tasmania? Yes, we do. We have business partners in Tasmania, and we have as well our own records management certified staff in WA. Can I create my own workflows? Yes, you can create your own workflows. I think what Alan showed earlier was with regards to standard workflows for the approval processes or for destruction processes. ELO allows you, Alan, if you could go to the ELO workflow designer. ELO has its built-in workflow designer where you can actually create your own workflows relatively easy with escalation possibilities and all those things. So that is it's a standard feature, and it is actually as well at no extra cost. And I think it was very important to see specifically in the last few weeks, we saw a lot of end of financial year sales from some of our competitors. There are indeed people out there who are buying licenses to integrate their records management system with Microsoft Office. With ELO, everything you've seen here is standard part of the package. One question was, do we have to buy ELO or can we also subscribe to it? Yes, you can subscribe to it. There's no problem with this one. You can either outright buy it or you can subscribe to it. One question is, we are a provider of health services. Do you have a hospital as a reference? Yes, we do. We have, together with our certified partner Toshiba, we are happy to have Monash Health as one of our adapters of the records management system. One question really nice, and we had a little bit of a chit-chat, forward, backward. Can more than one person work on one document concurrently? Essentially, how the system works is when you have, let's say, a Word document, you check this in, then you can check it out, and then other people can as well edit the document. They're then just saving it as different versions onto the system, and the Word functionality actually allows you to compare those documents. I'm not quite sure, Alan, whether we have here installed the compare functionality on your machine.
I don't believe so.
Yeah. So essentially, then ELO can compare those documents, and the Word does it as well, and then you can either merge it. So that means that we never ever overwrite what a person did. Here was another one similar to a question we had earlier this morning. It says, you mentioned trim. We have RecFind. Can we upgrade to ELO? Yes, of course. Alan,
Yeah,
migration framework?
that's correct. So we've basically built some frameworks where we can extract information that we require out of the platform. And so far, we have one for trim, we have a test one for objective, and RecFind, we have one as well. And the idea is, go on, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
So the idea is that we need to get out two pieces of information. One is the configuration information, and the other one is the physical records and the physical files and everything that you have within the current system. So the first run we do is get all the different configurations and fields and all that type of thing that we need. We build our keywording forms, and then the next step is to basically run an extract to get the documents and create the file containers where those documents are going to be placed.
Okay, the questions are coming in here rapidly at the moment. One question that was raised a couple of times, do I need to use SharePoint for records management if I have ELO? No, you don't need to use SharePoint, but ELO can obviously as well integrate with your SharePoint, so you don't necessarily need to have the record point. The advantage of ELO is it can work online and offline, which is obviously quite good. We can migrate from SharePoint because our migration framework actually queries the databases and therefore can extract as well information straight out of SharePoint. One question, I'm going to read it to you. Alan, you may be able to show this. What functionality do we have to share items with external parties? Just relatively straightforward. If you have a specific document or record, you can then have in the, so if you highlight a document you have, Alan?
Yeah, I'm just looking.
Just one of the ones we had earlier today on the invoices or so. Good credit application. So essentially you have there the possibility on the document side, you can see they create an external link. Yep. So the external link allows you to either set a specific date for how long that external link is active, or as well how many times can people click on it. And I'll give you an example. When we are talking about policies and procedures, and you have, let's say, an intranet or you have an extranet. If we take the example, one of our customers, the National Transport Commission, essentially goes through all the approval processes in creating the policies internally with their own workflows, and then this external link actually gets they put this into their website. So when you're clicking on that link, it actually extracts the document out of ELO. So that is either then a download or as well with coming in with ELO 12. We don't have this in this ELO 11 version. We have as well working places where external parties can actually as well contribute documents or commentary to ELO without the necessity necessarily to become an ELO user. Let me see what I had else here. No, I think that is what I have on the questions here. There was one question with regards to group shares. I am not aware of group share. So from that perspective, I can't really answer that question, but we will get back to you on that one. SharePoint we know, RecFind we know, Objective we know, Trim we know, Trim we're actually doing it as we speak. Group share I need to look at. And Lotus Notes Domino, of course, as well. So if there are no any further questions, I really would like to thank everybody attending this session. I'd like to obviously thank Alan for the preparation and the showing of the system specifically, and I think that is the most important thing, is the user experience at the very beginning does not have to be cumbersome, does not have to be difficult, and there's absolutely no excuse for a user to use ELO records management because life is really easy with it. The records manager has, of course, all the full functionality, and because through ELO, the records manager really becomes an information manager. Remember, what you hold under your custody is the past and it is the future. Last one came in here, network drives. Yes, of course, we always migrate network drives. The best example is we have done for Newcastle Airport. They had a very messy network drive. Essentially, obviously, you first need to run a deduplication software over it, then you clean it up a little bit, and then ELO has as well the same migration framework for network drives than it has with other systems. So thank you very much to everybody. We will send the link for the recording to everybody so that if you can't sleep at night, just watch our records management webinar again. We know that will help. Okay, thank you very much and have a lovely day.